China has identified the cause of the mysterious pneumonia outbreak in Wuhan City.
It's known as novel coronavirus.
NBC News has just confirmed 2 new cases in Washington state.
The music world, much like the rest of the world, is feeling the impact of COVID-19 with a growing list of concert cancellations.
We had planned to go on tour the Thursday before they shut everything down.
Really what we were looking at was a complete shift in our entire business model.
It kind of inspired me to set up a little company here in Oklahoma called the Oklahoma Film Orchestra.
It's like you took a vacation and forgot to take yourself with you, and then you brought back the worst souvenirs.
The original Record Store Day always occurs in April. And this year they postponed it to June.
We were going full steam right before the pandemic hit. We were playing shows all the time and practicing a lot. So we kind of took a break for ourselves, for our own mental health. And we wrote a song during the pandemic, and we got together and rehearsed that. So we were still able to be creative, but it just looks a lot different now.
We were also in the middle of recording an album.
Oh, so, yeah, true, yeah. About that.
We were. So that got stalled, but then later on, I think maybe April or May, we ended up going back into the studio and finishing up that album. So that was like a period of time where we were actually doing stuff, and we had taken all that time out before then. And so when we finally got back into the studio, it was like, yes.
We actually had a small tour get canceled. We had planned to go on tour the Thursday before they shut everything down. So we literally got calls from the venues and the bands we were supposed to play with like a few days before we were going to leave. Like, hey, we don't feel comfortable doing this still. So we had to cancel all of that.
Yeah, our first show was going to be March 18th, right?
I think so, yeah. Like, we were still planning on going on tour, and then they were like, no, like,
We didn't have
it was
the
a
options.
pandemic. Yeah.
I was depressed.
Yeah, it was just depressing.
I mean, yeah, I got to a point where, I don't know, like, in many ways with all of the unrest and everything, and this being an election year and all of that, COVID has, and as horrible as COVID is, in many ways for me, it was like, I was kind of thankful for it because it was an excuse to not be around a lot of people.
Like, not having a schedule anymore, like, time just didn't make any sense to me. Like, all the days started slipping together. And
Oh, yeah.
that just made me even more depressed, just not having a routine.
And all of us lost our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
None of us were working all summer. I teach kids. You work at Factory Obscura. They shut down, and you got laid off too. I mean, we all lost our jobs.
When we announced that we were going to release our album on September 5th, we got a huge response. And yeah, I don't think it would have been as big as it was if everyone's lives were still like going and there's so many other things to distract us.
I believe it was at the end of March we decided to close for 2 weeks because we went 2 days and didn't sell anything. So I told my wife we was going to close for 2 weeks. We reopened, and ever since then business has been crazy. Record lovers love their music. The original Record Store Day always occurs in April. The one in April, the day in April, is my best day of the year. And this year they postponed it to June. But then as the virus got worse, they postponed it to 3 months, which was August, September, and October. So we're going to have 4 months of Record Store Days this year. some of the vinyl that's produced is brand new vinyl. Some of it is vinyl that hasn't been released in 30 or 40 years. Some of it is stuff that may have been released in the last 5 or 10 years, but they added more songs to the album. So it's a lot of special stuff. It's limited quantities. When I order vinyl now, I'm lucky to get 70% of it in, which is kind of unusual. You order vinyl, you usually get most of it in. All of the presses throughout the United States, I guess COVID has affected their business as well. I guess some of them shut down, some of them didn't. Maybe they all got COVID, I don't know, but it's a lot of vinyl that just isn't accessible right now. A lot of stuff on back order. So that's affected my business, but still I've been, every month I've been surpassing last year.
Who goes amid the green wood with springtide all adorning her? Who goes amid the merry green wood to make it merrier?
My name is Brian Byrne. I'm a film composer, mainly, but I orchestrate and conduct and play the piano. But day to day, I'm a movie composer. The room you're in right now in Purcell, Oklahoma, wouldn't have this. We wouldn't be doing this here if it weren't for COVID, because this was an auto shop 5 months ago, but we couldn't travel. Usually when I score a movie, I go to Los Angeles or I go to Ireland or the UK, depending on where the post is, get on a plane with our family and we'll go and do the recording there. But we've been on lockdown since February, so we had this auto shop at the back of the house and I built a studio. It's like that Kevin Costner movie, if you build it, they'll come. And we had our first session, as I said earlier, we had our first session here 2 weeks ago with members of the Oklahoma City Philharmonic, and that's something that I probably would have put off if COVID hadn't happened. And to get to work with local musicians in Oklahoma is amazing. You know, they're fantastic players, and it kind of inspired me to set up a little company here in Oklahoma called the Oklahoma Film Orchestra, which is a brand new kind of thing that I'm doing only because I can't go to Ireland to record, or I can't go to Los Angeles to record with the orchestra. So I thought, well, I live here in Oklahoma. There's incredible musicians in the city. Built a studio. It'd be great if I can create employment for local musicians here, and if I can attract producers from Los Angeles or from Ireland or from the UK to record in Oklahoma. That's, you know, rather than me doing the work here and then giving it away somewhere else, I may as well keep the work here in the state. And then at the same time, I've been working on some video game music for Mark Mothersbaugh in Los Angeles for Sony, and I was writing some music and orchestrating on Croods 2 for DreamWorks. And I was able to do that here in Purcell. All the meetings were on Zoom, everything was online. In fact, Mark Mothersbaugh, who's the composer of Croods 2, he ended up on a ventilator for 2 weeks. He contracted COVID, he almost died, which is crazy. Luckily, he's on the mend, so yeah, so we've all been affected by it one way or another.
We run Outpost 31 Studios as a record label, all from inside of our house to begin with. Same with the studio. So it was one of those where, you know, we have a lot of artists that are outside of Oklahoma as well. With those acts that were maybe just studio acts, you know, we still work with them and trading back and forth. We started a new compilation to trade between everybody across the world. And that's really kind of been where it is we've kind of honed more in on making music videos and video content. It's always hard to get an artist career, music career of any sorts like that, you know, off and actually be able to pay the bills. And this was kind of one of those opportunities where it's, hey, what else are we gonna do? Let's get that passion going and let's try and make this work, not just for us and the family, but for the entire, you know, label family. Seeing artists being able to pivot and still keep their careers going, that's the hopeful feeling and vibe that we're looking for, you know. That passions aren't crushed, that they're just pivoting.
You've had COVID twice now. I mean, what was that like?
It's, well, being somebody with a weakened immune system, you get in tune, I guess what I'm saying is you get in tune with your body of knowing when you're gonna get sick or how bad it's gonna be. And this one was one of those where it's like, okay, let's start getting some medicine. I feel something happening, and And that's what it was, is that my fever was just shooting through the roof, and I felt fine other than that. So I was in bed for 3 weeks. Couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't eat. I could barely open my eyes, all I did was sleep. And I'm missing days. Days I have no idea. I'll look back at, it was, I think, August. I'm missing those first 2 weeks of August. I have no idea what went down. So that's weird. It's like you took a vacation and forgot to take yourself with you, and then you brought back the worst souvenirs.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So in March, it was, we had been working through the first early stages of it, South by getting canceled, where everything was still up in the air. But really over the course of 48 hours, we lost 2 months of our calendar. So during those initial 2 days, I would say our reaction was primarily just kind of shock and panic. Initially, we just didn't have any shows on the calendar. So with the lockdowns plus not having any tours, it was just a complete, blackout of our calendar. We had just kind of cleared that startup phase and hired our entire event staff team, more tech support, the whole nine. And, when we lost the first 2 months, we just had to sit everyone down and say, we don't have shows for you. Because really what we were looking at was a complete shift in our entire business model. Even the smallest details had to be reevaluated and thought through, and how we can, avoid lines, merch tables, bar lines, everything like that. So with that, 2 month or so window that we gave ourselves, we just wanted to sit down and talk through things endlessly over and over again to see how we can basically rebuild an entire business. The capacity being cut down has been the biggest hurdle for us, and just how can we still have a viable source of revenue with that. Most venues don't rely on ticket sales as their primary source of revenue. Most of the time it's actually bar revenue that actually keeps your lights on. So with that, how do we get table service started? How do we, format this in a way that people can actually enjoy a show, feel safe, and we can also meet our bottom line? People seem pretty willing to play by the rules and just understand this is what we have to do because things are not normal right now. And the truth of the matter is, entertainment feels kind of like a luxury. No one's really entitled to come to a show anymore. At first, it felt only like doom and gloom. And then we started kind of getting our resilience back in check and thinking about things. So a huge benefit of it has been just seeing the community support, understanding that the people in this city do care, they do see what we're doing, and they want to do whatever they can to bring it back has been fantastic. So right now it's really just kind of playing it day by day and hoping for the best.